aspects of this hold water, but some of it is drawn in the wrong direction. It's still misleading what he's rattling off, if I'm not mistaken. Most things are. Most things are that people shake out. So first and foremost, you have to appreciate what he's going to tell you is centered on Africa. That's everything centered on that. There's more to that if you look into it. If you think in terms of, and I've said this a bunch now, think of Noah's sons. And I always forget one of them for some reason. But you got Ham, which has to do with Africa. You got Japheth, which has to do with Europe. And Shem, that's the other one that has to do with Asia. And that's 3 different corporations today, but otherwise known as continents or countries, respectively. And each one of these have to do with ethnicities or races, crudely speaking, which is interesting when you think of Noah, who, if I'm not mistaken, descended from, Lamech, and all that other jazz, which you need to dance it back and think in terms of these things, in terms of the lineage. What many things seem to point to is it wasn't just 3 sons. It was, in some ways, 3 fleets of people, and they went in their own directions, and they occupied the lands. So when you think in terms of that, they brought this knowledge and populated these places. And what this guy's going to rattle off is what most people do. I mean, how should I put it? You have a dog in the race based on what you look like when you look in the mirror. But if you start using that heart behind your chest, and the brain in your head, it's the most superficial fucking thing to focus on. We're all in this together, and the point is to band together and do the right fucking thing and not polarize people. But usually this is what will shake out. That's a crude way to think of what I'm getting at. And so again, he's going to talk about Egypt, which some people don't realize, it touches on it. It's part of Africa. Also appreciate that all things Atlantis, we have no proof that built up the Egyptian civilization whatsoever. Atlantis is a secondhand account that was handed to Plato from another dude, and it doesn't state any of the wishy-washy adult fairy tales that people repeat today. But a lot of people hinge on that. He doesn't bring that up. I'm mentioning that because Billy Carson, I think is his last name, is controlled opposition, and a lot of people repeat what he repeats because he's controlled opposition. Back to point. So this guy's going to talk about the 42 laws of Ma'at, or however you want to pronounce it. He's also going to go on to state that what people think of as the Bible today is disharmonious or negative in many ways. And in terms of being an abridged book and edited numerous times, which means the truer words and the truer language, has been lost, which means that it is disharmonious. But all things are. It's like thinking in terms of Latin being a dead language, which people still speak. Not many, but people still are capable of doing so, which means it's by all rights not dead. A truer form. Same having to do with Sanskrit and things along those lines. Or Ogham and things like that dance all the way back, at least as far as we're aware. If you're curious about that, you could think in terms of the 72 languages related to the Tower of Babel, and it's a slippery slope trying to find any of this information because most of it has been colored in one way or another to mislead you and me. By extension, it's what our masters are up to. So they seed narratives that do not reflect reality. Bits and pieces in there will resonate with you because they come from the original outline, if I'm not mistaken. And then they just tell you an adult fairy tale, like Atlantis creating the Egyptian culture, and people repeat it without looking into it. That's why I say don't buy into it, look into it. Use your brain. Use your brain wisely, for that matter. Because anything anybody rattles off, they are using their brain, but they're not doing their due diligence, in my humble opinion. That speaks volumes if you start comparing and contrasting what people are shopping around. What else do I want to rattle off in here? I'll shut up. I'll play the video so you can hear what's what. Let's see. And he's responding to somebody else. Oh, and I need to shut up anyway because I forgot this is 7 minutes long.
What up, TikTok? Ain't nobody talking about it, but I'm the motherfucker to talk about it, right? I'm responding to a gentleman that commented on a video I did about the Bible. I don't know if you know, sir, but them laws that's in your Bible were laws that was actually stolen from 42 of the laws of Ma'at, right? Which is an ancient Egyptian goddess. All these scriptures in different books were written by man. The books that mean something in that Bible is not even in that Bible. And the laws that were given to you, sir, in that Bible was fear pumping laws. Fear brainwashing laws. The 42 laws of Ma'at was uplifting, embracing, loving, caring, balance, how to find yourself in life, abundance, things of that nature. Nothing on a lower vibrational, nothing on a lower frequency. If you look and read scriptures throughout that Bible, the person you worship has damaged and killed more people than the so-called devil or Satan. And that's a fact. You have a jealous God. That don't even spell out high frequency, high vibration, loving, caring. Do you see where I'm getting at? And I have nothing against anyone's religion. I just want to let you know that these people, meaning the powers to be, stole everything from, I can't even say Egypt or Israel or Africa, because none of those names of the country are the original names of the country. Or should I say the original name of that continent? Because it's all so-called Africa. It's all Africa. But that's another topic. But I just want you to know, you got to understand where your laws came from. And not only that, they twisted the very few laws that they have stolen from the laws of Ma'at. Because again, those laws was uplifting laws. Good, big on righteousness. None of them laws will ever speak on cursing her own people. That Bible curse a certain group of people. And that certain group of people will be a people of my people, meaning me. So why would I want to partake or follow any of something that's belittling, degrading, selling me? I didn't want to respond in comments, sir, because you only can say very little words. So I figure I'll put it in a video. And again, no disrespect. I just had to let you know where the little laws in that Bible came from that was twisted around. Nothing that come out of Africa or Egypt, or I'm going to say that continent of Africa, pumps fear into the people. Nothing. Everything was uplifting. We gotta stay focused, people. We be worried about the wrong shit. We be worried about the wrong shit. That Bible pumps fear into people. That Bible destroyed nations of people. That Bible put a curse on a certain group of people. So no, I don't follow that. No, I don't believe in that. This is why the world is fucked up and off balance now, because y'all believe it's a man's fucking world. It's called Mother Earth for a reason. It's called Mother Nature for a reason. Y'all been brainwashed so bad, it's sad. And this is why a lot of folks around is being harmed now, because they believe in their God or their Savior or whoever is coming to save them. I know a lot of religious folks, I don't need a gun. But what if someone break into your house? What if someone try to carjack you while you at a light? Come on, we gotta really start thinking, y'all. Like, seriously. This shit is getting out of hand. And we losing ourselves fast. Facts. The fuck?
The last bit of that message I absolutely agree with. In terms of firearms, and people are more lost than they've ever been, and most don't realize it. Again, bits and pieces of what he rattles off, I mean, touch on things that do reflect reality. But he did stress that he believes in certain things, and I frown on that for the most part. I mean, you need to put in your time and energy and compare and contrast what's out there, and not just believe something because it offends you, which is largely what his stance is. And it lends itself to, I mean, again, when you look in the mirror, you see what, and you align yourself with what, and this is what a lot of people do. I mean, to a degree. Think of any type of law enforcement. By all rights, they are biased, no matter what. No matter where you're at, they're biased. They're human. We all do that. We all initially judge things. It's about stepping past that and doing the right thing. And appreciating the fact that we are apt to do so initially. Just how it works. Yeah. It's something that's learned, which is interesting too, when you watch kids, most kids at least, unless something is truly, how should I say it, asymmetrical is one way to look at it. A lot of kids will have an aversion to things that are asymmetrical because most things are symmetrical. There's a mirror and a reflection, and you see that in you and I, in all things by and large. So when things are asymmetrical, you will see people shy away and react poorly. That's one quick way to appreciate people being judgmental, so to speak, off the cuff. There's a lot I want to rattle off in here, and I already went over my limit. And as always, I mean, I'm systematically censored, so chances of you seeing these things are pretty unlikely, typically speaking, these days, regardless of the social engineering platform. I did want to rattle off, how did I want to put this, though? I'm trying to remember what he said in the video for the reference point. I was going to rattle off, because he was talking about good energy and bad energy, high vibration, I think is how he worded it. And again, reality is not just positive vibes only. It's not. And there's been a changing of the guard, and it does so cyclically speaking. So we also mentioned Mother Earth, which is, Mother Earth is Satan. It's Saturnel. It's Satanel. And you and I are made from it. We live in it, etc., etc. And most people don't realize that. And that's largely what he was speaking to. The flip side of that, ironically, because it has to do with the abridged Bible, the 66 abridged books, because 66 is representative of Father Sky, Jupiter, Baal El Allah, what lies within. And that's the light inside of us. So primarily speaking, he was talking about the superficial materialistic jazz in that regard. At least that's what it seems like he's aligning himself with, without knowingly or otherwise. But there is a flip side. So when he's talking about nature and Mother Earth, it contains something. It contains the light. And that's the Father. It's important. When he was saying all things are Africa, you also got a lot of people out there that are shopping around other narratives these days where same group of folks who look in the mirror and they see you know what will also try to tell you that they were always in America and they were the original Indians, feathers not dots. That's something that's being shopped around, and I just want you to be aware of that. I just want you to be aware of that. So again, which is it? But if you dance it back to what was left in some of the earliest, scripts, books, etc., again, Ham went to the continent of Africa, not America. Food for thought. And that's just one thread that I'm throwing out there. There are others, and you can compare and contrast, and you can see where they lead, but most people don't do that. The other thing I was going to throw out in terms of vibration, and this is an experiment you can perform, and it has to do with the left and the right, because we're not just talking about the good or the bad, we're talking about both. So if you guys are out there and you ride public transportation, and or if you just want to go sit at a bus stop regularly, it's something that I've observed over the years. Typically speaking, the bus is going to arrive to the right. So your bus isn't going to arrive first, typically speaking. But the one on the opposite side of the street, to your right, will pop up first, typically speaking. So each and every day, again, in terms of, the polarizing Hegelian dialectic, Doppler shift, the blue and the red, the fire and the water. Each day we have twilight and we have sunset. And each day, what do we observe? It sure as shit seems like, crudely speaking, I say an arc. It's what it sort of looks like, but it's really a solar analemma and a lunar analemma. But the observable jazz that really stands out is Apollo the sun seems to make an arc through the sky towards the right. Now, what I want you to think in terms of is, does the right create or affect or symbiotically sing to the left? Because what people are calling God or all the other names, you can rattle off Lord and all the other stuff, and then the deeper names, which people squabble about, fill in the blank. Do what you want to do right there to make you feel better and sleep well at night. It's both. It's the alpha and the omega. It's both. So when he was talking about a book that's just harmonious, so to speak, or just high vibration, that doesn't reflect reality. It's hot and it's cold. It's night and it's day. Sorrow and joy. And that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it beautiful. From the cradle to the grave, as they say. Or from the ground to your crown. That's what reflects reality. And that's why our masters polarize us. But back to point, we observe that, I say an arc, so just bear with me, moving towards the right. And what I want you to think in terms of is, what is the left? What does that reflect? What does that represent in terms of high vibration or low vibration? Which is which? Another thing I want to throw out there, and I've asked people online before, do you think that Apollo the sun during the day is positive or negative? And do you think Artemis the moon, its older twin, is positive or negative at night? And I want you to think about how you heal at night. I want you to think in terms of movement and repose, because that's what you will hear about in the Bible. I think the Gospel of Thomas in particular places an emphasis on movement and repose, because that's also, it touches on, The Secret, that shitty book, and what people rattle off, how to, quote unquote, manifest things in the matrix, as a lot of kids will talk about, but they don't understand. There are techniques to this. And some of which were, poorly seated, but they are in the Gospel of Thomas, and that's where a lot of that comes from. Something to think about. But it stresses movement and repose. Because there's noise and there's silence. Again, it's a binary system. So is the noise which is usually associated with radiation or electricity, crudely speaking, is that good or is that bad? Is it positive or is it negative? You really got to start rethinking these things. And the same applies to then start thinking in terms of left and right. Which is it? What do you observe? Grassroots approaches is what need to be applied to all things, and people aren't doing it. People haven't done it. Instead, they lean on the narratives, and they repeat the narratives without thinking. This is why I stress people aren't thinking for themselves. They don't have a fucking clue what's going on. They need to pull their heads out of their ass. I can teach you things you're not supposed to know. I'm looking for people who can use the brain between their ears and they are capable of reasoning things out. And I've been doing this for about a decade, if not longer, and it hasn't gone well. I like to say it hasn't boded well. To try to make it sound a little bit more ominous. Because with all these people who are looking for answers, this should have been easy to find a lot of people. Especially before our masters put a governor switch on the internet and limited reach because, freedom of speech doesn't exist and patently fascist Nazi tactics are well afoot. Yeah. There's a lot more I want to rattle off in here, and I'm trying to think of what else. I was thinking about teaching you guys, or at least throwing out there is what I should say, because anything anybody imparts to you, and I like to stress this too because most people don't do it, anything anyone imparts to you, they convey to you, they're telling you. They're selling you a package, including myself. You need to not only take it with a grain of salt, you need to be skeptical. And the first thing you need to do is you need to look into it. So if you run out and you start talking about something that somebody left online, you repost a video that somebody else left online, that means you don't have a fucking clue what reflects reality and whether or not that's a misleading package, narrative, propaganda. You have no fucking clue. If you've been paying attention over the years, things have been seeded to the internet as jokes, but they're also social engineering or social experiments, if you will. Sociological experimentation on the internet, where a bogus story will be seeded to the internet and people will repeat it. Or if you haven't been paying attention to, here's a superficial example. Okay, and I know that reality is weird, and people talk about the Mandela effect and other wacky stuff like that, and some people die repeatedly. Apparently, even though we didn't witness them die at least I haven't, these celebrities, at any one of those stages when they were allegedly dead. That's something else to think about. But how was I going to put this? I just got sidetracked. Give me another second. I think the gist of it was when someone does die and they are not actually dead, and people do repeat the story, even though they don't know. They do not know. Same idea. I mean, you don't know that celebrity actually passed away, but some people will repeat it. And in some cases, people will shop around the story. I've seen this in TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram in particular. When somebody did pass away, but they don't put the date in the meme. And they died 5 years prior to everybody saying, oh my God, rest in peace, so-and-so. And it's because people don't look into it, but it speaks volumes about how superficial people are. Because it's materialistic horseshit. That's what you and I are geared towards. If you think in terms of our chakras, because I mentioned from the ground to the crown, yeah? You and I aren't supposed to get past the orange and the yellow. So to build it up in case you don't know about any of this, and this is my crap way of putting it, but from the ground to the crown, right, you got your red root chakra. And you should also think of Adam in the Bible because it crudely translates to red clay, not what that fella's shaking out. I'm talking, it sure as shit sounds more like Indians with feathers and red skin. But maybe I'm wrong. But that is what Adam translates to, is red clay, crudely speaking, or red earth, or fill in the blank with, the bastard translations to English in this case. Red root chakra, yeah. Then above that, you've got, and I always mix these two up, but I'm pretty sure it's orange comes next, which is your relationships. And it is connected to the yellow, which is the color of the demiurge, the 66, the Baal el Allah, Jupiter, Father Sky, which has to do with willpower. So you can think about the architect from the Matrix writing the script in that case. And we're not supposed to get past that. And this is why we got Pornhub and all that other crap. Because you're not supposed to think in a higher vibration and get past any of these things. You're supposed to squabble about shit. You're supposed to polarize people and keep them towards the red root chakra, crudely speaking. It's one way to think of it. Doesn't necessarily have to be the red. But it is closer, or it's closely aligned with people not making progress, not reaching the heart chakra. I usually think in terms of the programming in the box. The book and the movie are uncanny. I mean, they're very similar with the exception of the ending. But Fight Club and talking about reaching the heart chakra. I think about that when I hear heart chakra all the fucking time. I also think about the Aurora Borealis because usually, green is associated with the heart chakra. And yet, what's the blending of blue and red? What color does that produce? And the color I'm referring to is royal. But it is higher up. It's towards the blue. It's past the blue. It's not the green. And that's something that doesn't come up, and it should. To that point, I should probably I've been trying to make myself sit through The Sound of Music again. I fucking hate that Nazi movie. But I was going to watch it for the sake of lesser magic and all the things I've gleaned, because to have eyes to see, mine are more refined than they were when I used to have to sit through that shit at family gatherings and weird stuff. Either way, back to point. You got the green one, which has to do with your heart chakra, blah, blah, blah. Above that, crudely speaking, you've got the indigo and you got the blue. And you can think of the duds that talk about indigo children, even though we are connected to the guided stars above, which is the 88. It's the what most people misattribute to the fixed stars, and other people call the zodiac, which crudely translates to the little animals. It's the guided stars above, and we're connected to that. It's a bigger thought for another day. But when you hear indigo children, that's what I think in terms of, even though all of that indigo children stuff is attached to the Disclosure Project funded by the Rockefeller Trust, and it's misleading slop where you're going to hear about Zeta Greys that don't exist and the Galactic Council of made up adult fairy tale horse shit and a bunch of nonsense. It's narratives our masters put on the internet because they give us the internet to promote their narratives, not to teach you something. I mean, they don't care about our health. Why would they teach you something that reflects reality? The flat earth and globe theory are crap, and you would have realized that, but most people don't. If you had eyes to see and you were thinking for yourself, but most people aren't. Again, what the fuck do I know? Back to point. So you got the heart chakra, and then above that, crudely speaking, you have the word. And you could think of the word of God, and you could think of blue. And you should. And that's usually where I taper it off, but you can look into it. There are other lotuses, the petals of the lotuses associated with each one of the respective chakras. And the other thing you have to appreciate when I babble about chakras, and most people don't, and the system as a whole, is you and I have a skeleton, which acts like an antenna, and the living waters are pouring through you and I like a fucking battery. Because that's the ether. That's Christ, not Jesus. That's the living waters. It's Etherions, Prana, Chi, Vril. It's got a bunch of names. And also remember, the Vril Society likely didn't exist, and that's another adult fairy tale people repeat, but you're familiar with it probably if you've ever heard of reptoids and other crap like that. You know, lizard people David Icke babbles about, because he's controlled opposition too. Yeah, so I use Vril sometimes because people know about it. Because it's really tough with all these different, words that mean the same thing, crudely speaking. And if you're not familiar with something, you're going to reject it. And that's usually what people do. I need to eat something because I haven't eaten all day and I'm doing a wicked fucking detox and life is wonky. But I wanted to leave this on the internet. Sadly, I'm going to have to break it up and put time and energy into knocking this video out into 10-minute segments so that it fits on TikTok and people only watch part 2 and click like. And they have no context of what the video is about, but they sure liked the second part. It's ridiculous, and it's by design because our masters are doing away with attention spans. On that note, also appreciate if you've never thought about this or heard me whine about it, social engineering stickers are in place to do away with abstract thought. That's why they gave you emojis, so that you don't express yourself. That's also why you get truncated abbreviations. You're not in the military, so there's no reason you need to work double time. Moving with a purpose, so you don't need to say BRB. You can spell your words because words have power, and you should. Don't take my word for it. Look into it. Don't buy into it. And thanks for fucking hanging out with me. Oh, and as always, what the fuck do I know? Suppose this will be part 4. First and foremost, anything that's well financed and well circulated, you can't trust. Anything that begins with flat Earth, the pseudo intellectual flat Earth imagery, or the physics defying globe theory, both paradigms, both outlines, both packages, both narratives, our masters handed people that shit. Do you really think that they're trying to teach you something that reflects reality? There's a reason why this shit is in the programming. But anything that begins with that or incorporates that imagery, you could think of, what the fuck is it called now? Subliminal imagery, even though it's superficial as it comes in this case. But most people don't have eyes to see and look past anything anyway, so I guess you could probably always think of it as that. Yeah, just the same. Take it with a grain of salt, and that alone should color anything that you're seeing and being urged to repeat in a poor light. That's one way to put it. Here, I'll play the video. Also note all the social engineering stickers that we don't need that are doing away with abstract thought. It's fucking ridiculous. All right, back to point.
I was talking to this pastor, and this pastor was like, y'all young people's finding out the secret. And I asked him, what secret is he talking about? He said, yes, America is Egypt. He was like, that's what the Seminole War was about, the Louisiana Purchase was about. And he was like, look up this map. It's called Tamari. And he said, y'all, it's Tamarikans. So I went to look up at the map, right? And I was amazed he was right. He was like, that's y'all true nationality. And he was like, when the Seminole War broke out, that's when they won and they took over America and started calling them Americans, and they spelt it different. And the Bible is based upon y'all. All pastors know this, Freemasonry know this, everybody know this.
Pyramid on the Nile and Northeast Africa doesn't have stair steps going up it. It doesn't have temples on top of its summits. They could not go and break through the boat on the temples atop those great pyramids. There are none there. And that was the clue that Egypt was writing about the Americas. And the deeper I got into the records, the clearer it got. They started actually saying, and because Amun loved that land so much, he said this is the beloved land, and that word was Mary, the beloved. Mary, M-E-R-I, Mary. And the land, of course, as before, is Ta, the beloved land, Ta-Mary. And they kept that name and just put the Ta on the end of it, so Ta-Mary became a Mary Ta. We simply say America. We kept the name that Egypt gave to the Americans. So that was the big mystery behind that $10 million map that Martin Waldseemüller made and then put the name America on it in 1507. And then those who knew and those who were trying to hide things said, wait a minute, you can't put that name on here. And the next time he reprinted that map, it was off, it was gone. Because that's the name that Egypt had given the land.
Now you know your name. I was talking to this pastor.
That's what people are shopping around. Make of it what you will, naturally. And that's how things work. Here's the account, which isn't censored. I'm saying that based on the fact that they have 15,000 people following them. So, what do I always say? What the fuck do I know? If I'm not mistaken, the guy in the upper left, and let's see, diagonally from Just Watched on the left, I think it's the same fella, and Queen Nanny, maybe I'm wrong. I can't tell if it is the same guy. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Let me know this second. Let me see if I can knock it. Maybe I'm wrong. It looks like a fella that was recently put in jail, but maybe I'm wrong. It might not be him. No, I'm pretty sure it is. The guy in the middle. Here, let's listen to it for a second.
And you the motherfucking Indian if you...
Yeah, not a good guy. He's in jail for abusing children, among other things. Good people don't circulate that shit. Good people look into things, which means they don't buy into them. And they sure as shit don't promote that shit. That's questionable. Yeah. Is this the same guy? I bet you it is up here. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see.
If you lock yourself in...
Yeah, that's not a good guy. All right. As always, what the fuck do I know? Yeah. If you hung out, thanks for hanging out.